All right. I think we're at a good point there. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. My name is Ronald. I am an account manager here in the Midwest. I will be going through the first part of our presentation here and talk about the Family Forest Carbon Program as a whole. Afterwards, I'll pass to my colleague Ethan, who will talk about the eligibility and practices of the program, followed by Jasmine, who will talk about enrollment and our community. One thing about this presentation, just a little bit of housekeeping, is this will be recorded and we will send this out afterwards. And then the other thing is we do have a Q&A section at the bottom of the screen there. If you do have questions, feel free to put them into that box. As you see, we will have a Q&A section towards the end, and we will try to answer as many questions as we can. All righty, let's get started. So what is the Family Forest Carbon Program? The Family Forest Carbon Program helps landowners with 30 or more forested acres reach their forest management goals by providing extra income, guidance from a forester, and a forest management plan. The program improves forest health, wildlife habitat, timber value, and increases carbon stored on their land throughout a 20-year enrollment. Who is behind the Family Forest Carbon Program? Well, the FFCP was created through a partnership of the Nature Conservancy and the American Forest Foundation, which we will refer to as AFF. AFF is a national conservation nonprofit organization that works to empower family forest owners to make meaningful conservation impact on their land. Why do we offer the Family Forest Carbon Program? Well, 39% of forests in the United States are owned by families and individuals who care deeply about the health of their woods, but often don't have the funds or resources to realize the true potential of their land. AFF offers the Family Forest Carbon Program to give landowners the opportunity to benefit from the carbon market, providing them with additional income from their land, bringing economic stimulus to local communities, and the sustainable forest management practices improve forest health value and increase carbon sequestration and storage. How is the Family Forest Carbon Program funded? Well, we are funded through the carbon market, grants, as well as private donations. So the carbon market, we'll talk about a little bit. The American Forest Foundation's Family Forest Carbon Program acts as a bridge for forest landowners to access the benefits of the voluntary carbon market, protecting landowners from the risk and complexity of the carbon market. What does that mean? It means we guarantee annual payments that landowners know upfront. Any anticipated future market valuation changes are figured into those payments. And the FFCP assumes the risk of any future negative market fluctuations. So those are very important things to keep in mind. All right. So what are some benefits to the landowners with our program? Well, some of the general benefits are as mentioned, you get guaranteed annual payments for use of anything, including property taxes. You get healthier and more climate-resistant forests and improve long-term forest and timber value. And keep in mind that landowners retain full ownership of their land, privacy and control of their land, and continued use of their property for recreation and hunting. So some of the forest management resources we have are that we will connect you with a consulting forester who helps you develop and update your forest management plan. We will provide a stipend to help cover the cost of a custom plan developed for your property and goals, help with forest stewardship for your family and future generations, and we have extended education from partners such as the ATFS, Audubon Society, USDA, and others. That kind of manifests itself in wildlife habitation restoration and improvements, soil and water quality improvements, and mine reclamation. All right, some of the community benefits that we have are membership in our community of like-minded landowners to share experiences and ideas. Healthier forests mean improved wildlife habitat, more wildlife species, cleaner air, and cleaner water. And by paying private landowners, we are putting money back into rural American communities. So this is Susan. She's one of the earliest enrollees into our program. I'll give you all a minute to kind of read her quote and let you know what she feels about the program. All right. Well, at this point, I will hand over the reins to Ethan, who will talk to you more about the eligibility and forest management practices of the program.
Awesome. Thanks, Ronald. As you said, my name is Ethan. I'm an outreach forester with the Family Forest Carbon Program. I'm based here in northern Minnesota, and then I'll be talking about our eligibility and forest management practices. So who enrolls in the Family Forest Carbon Program? So landowners enrolled in the Family Forest Carbon Program to date, we have over 12,000 landowners with over 164,000 acres enrolled to date. 43.54 million in payments committed to landowners, and enough acres enrolled to capture and store 3.21 million tons of carbon over the next 20 years. So where is the forest land enrolled? So here in the Midwest, we work in Michigan, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, and you'll see a picture of counties on the next slide. You'll also see our areas in the Northeast as well as Appalachia area down there. And what are enrolled landowners' goals for their forests? So a majority of landowners who are enrolled have prescribed harvests outlined in their forest management plan. Most use their land recreationally and for hunting, and most plan to keep their land in their family and pass it down to future generations. And there's that map of the counties that we work in the Midwest. The Family Forest Carbon Program is currently available in 20 different states. So FFCP enrollment. So enrollment comes at no cost to you. So going through our enrollment process with a forester comes at no cost. 30 acres of existing forest that match regional criteria. Some exceptions are made based on forest condition and landowner goals. 20-year commitment increases the long-term value of your forest. The FFCP practices are designed to grow bigger trees that are worth more at the end of your commitment with the program. No existing restrictions on timber harvesting activity. So these include local ordinances, conservation easements, and designated no harvest areas. And land is not or has not been enrolled in another forest carbon program. However, we do have an exception for former NCX participants. So the practice that we have in the Midwest is the growing mature forests. So this practice is designed, sorry, my cat knows when I have the camera on. This practice is designed to allow your forest to grow larger, older trees than average forests in your local area. This practice promotes long-term forest health, improves habitat for numerous wildlife species that rely on mature forests, and increases the commercial and environmental value of the woodland while allowing you to maintain your working forests. And you'll see the website there. That's where you can go and check your eligibility. Yeah. So here are the parameters for our growing mature forests. 30 acres minimum to enroll. It is a 20-year contract. Minimum basal area, that's the stocking of your woodland or the amount of trees per acre, is 80 square feet per acre of merchantable timber. Forest can be made up of any tree species except forests that are primarily composed of aspen birch. Sustainable harvesting is allowed in our program. However, we do not allow clear cutting or high grading. We do provide you with a yearly personal allowance to use for firewood, which you could also sell if you choose to, and forest management plans that are updated every 10 years. The personal use allowance, as mentioned on the prior slide, so we allow 5 cords for the first 200 acres, an additional 5 cords for every additional 100 acres enrolled per year, 25 cords being the max. There's no diameter limit on naturally fallen or dead trees. Standing live trees being harvested for personal use must be below 12 inches in diameter, and that's measured 4.5 feet off the ground. And the allowance can be used to sell firewood. You'll see that personal allowance chart below. You can kind of get an idea of what your personal allowance would be for the size of your property. Awesome. So the forest activities, any activity that does not interfere with growth and development of mature trees is acceptable within the program. So things like hunting, hiking trail development, treating invasive species, protecting regeneration, mushroom gathering, and the all-important Midwestern maple tapping. Awesome. So sustainable harvest allowance. So to do a sustainable harvest within our program, you do have to hire a third-party qualified forester to conduct a pre-harvest report. They may not remove more than 25% of total basal area within the contract area. That basal area was this 80 square feet minimum to start. They may not reduce the quadratic mean diameter beyond 10%, and may not harvest in a manner contradictory to the state's best management practices. Things like thinning, single tree selection, group tree selection are generally acceptable within the program. And depending on enrollment conditions, landowners may be able to also do patch clear cuts. Enrolled landowners receive forest management plans, and Ronald touched about on this at the beginning. So we do provide a stipend to landowners, the amount based on total forested acres, which you can see there over on the right side of the screen. FFCP will connect you with a consulting forester who is qualified to write your forest management plan. Awesome. So FFCP integration with prior commitments. So the Family Forest Carbon Program works well with many easements and other forestry programs. Easements must not contain language that restricts harvesting. The ability to harvest provides a pathway for landowners to enroll in programs that require harvesting. So an example here in the Midwest would be the Managed Forest Law, or MFL, in Wisconsin. Our staff will review any existing commitments and ensure compatibility. Utility and gas line right-of-ways typically pose no concern once they are established. Awesome. So this is Tim Stout. He's also one of our FFCP landowners. He's also a member of our Family Forest Carbon Program board, as well as he's a general attendee at our coffee meetings. And you can go ahead and read one of his quotes. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Jasmine Brown for the remainder of the presentation. Thanks, y'all.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Jasmine Brown. I am the Senior Manager of Landowner Stewardship, and today I'll be covering payments, what being a part of our community looks like, and then next steps for enrolling. Before I do that, I do want to encourage you all to start putting your questions in that Zoom Q&A box. I don't see any just yet, but I would love to see some. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. When it comes to payments and contracts, once your project data has been collected by one of our foresters, our landowners are offered a 20-year contract. Payments are based on the eligible acres that you have and the going rate for the eligible practice. For example, the rate for the Midwest growing mature forest practice is $200 per acre. In addition to your payments, like Ethan spoke about earlier, landowners will receive that forest management plan stipend, and that also depends on the amount of forested land you own. To determine eligibility, a forester will come out and walk your property with the landowner, and the contracts are very specific to the payment details, and then it's sent to the landowner for review. Once sent and that landowner is able to review it, you get to consider that offer for 30 days. So from initially getting the survey to enrollment, that entire process typically takes about 80 days. And so what does a payment term and schedule really look like for the growing mature forest? So if the payment rate is $200, you'll receive 20% of that payment for your whole 20 years in year one. You'll get 3% in years 2 through 8. You'll get 9%, you'll get 4% in years 9 through 14, and then you'll get 5% in year 15 through 19. And then you'll get the final 10% in year 20. And that can be a little bit confusing, so we went ahead and put a sample payment scheduler right next to it. And so let's say you have 50 acres and your total payment over the 20-year time period is $10,000. So in that first year, you'll receive $2,000, and that second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, sixth year, seventh year, eighth year. It's the only time I'll do that. You'll receive $300 for each of those years. Same thing when it goes from years ninth through the 14 years, you'll get $400. In years 15 through year 19, you'll get $500 each year. And then that final payment in year 20 of $1,000. Perfect. So how do you get started now that you have almost all the details? The way in which you get started is pretty simple. You'll go to familyforestcarbon.org and you'll use our check your eligibility mapping tool so that you can locate your specific property and then begin the qualification process. Next, you'll get to speak to one of our FFCP representatives where you'll share more about your land, your goals, and ask any questions that you may have at that time. Then you'll be connected with one of our foresters, either virtually or on site, who will then determine your eligibility and help with that project planning. Once planning is complete, you'll get to meet one of our FFCP account managers like Ronnie, who spoke earlier, and they'll send you a custom offer that you'll get to review. And remember, that review is for 30 days. After signing, you'll receive that first payment within 60 days of us receiving and approving all of your required documents. Along with your first payment, that's when you'll also receive the stipend to hire a forester to write that forest management plan. And then throughout the whole 20-year contract, you'll continue receiving guidance and support from our community and sustained engagement team. That's my team, where you'll work to address any questions and concerns, and you can notify us about any changes or disturbances on your land. And then we can also get the opportunity to connect you to more like-minded landowners. So more on that post-enrollment support and opportunity, right? So there's our team, we're small but mighty, as like we like to say. You'll receive individualized email support from us pretty often, actually. You'll get a phone call support at least once a year, or you can call us more. We love to talk. You'll get an invitation to the Family Forest, which is an online community of landowners, and not only landowners, but also forest professionals where you can ask questions and share resources and pictures. It's pretty cool. We also have quarterly coffees where you get to meet other people in the program. There's educational opportunities. We usually always have a speaker at those. And then we also send a quarterly newsletter. That is the typical support that we provide now, but every year we try to do more and we try to do better and we try to just keep engaging landowners. Awesome. So what are the next steps moving forward? If you want to just learn more about FFCP, maybe you didn't catch something we said today, or you're more of a visual person, you need to read about it. You can always go to the familyforestcarbon.org/how it works. You can check your specific eligibility from the email that you were sent earlier. Oh, my computer's gonna die. From the familyforestcarbon.org/get started. And then you're more than welcome to connect with us by scheduling a call. You could do that today or scheduling as soon as possible by clicking the link in your FFCP CP qualification email. And then any other time, you're also welcome to, like I said, give us a phone call at the number right there. I'm not going to read it off, or email us at info@familyforestimpact.org. Thanks. All right, y'all. And I see some questions have been popped into the chat, and I'll give you some more time to do that. You can also use the Q&A box, and I'll wait for some more additional questions to come in. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get us started on questions. Oh, before I do that, I can't forget about Louise here. You guys are more than welcome to read her quote, but she is one of our early enrollees as well. She's such a great ambassador and advocate for our program. She has told her stories in many different settings, and we just really appreciate her forest stewardship and her commitment to the program and her own land. Sweet. So the first question I'm seeing is, are payments under the program taxable income? Yes, they are taxable incomes. Every year you will get a 1099. If your payments, this actually just changed recently. In the past, it was If your payment was over $600, then you would get a 1099, but I'm pretty sure that it is now $2,000. So if you get a payment of over $2,000, you will get a 1099. If it's under that, then you don't actually have to file those. Sweet. Next question. If land is sold before 20 years, what happens to the plan? Does it stay with the land or is it terminated? I can also answer that. It stays with the land, and that would be up to the seller and the buyer to negotiate who pays the terms. It's not actually terminated, but there are some penalties if if the new buyer decides that they don't want to continue the contract. Awesome. We're just going to keep it moving. These are great questions, y'all. I have 40 acres in the Michigan Commercial Forest Program, which requires its own forestry plan. Would this plan qualify with the FFCP requirements? I am going to throw that question to our forester, Ethan.
Thanks, Jasmine. So yeah, Michigan Commercial Forest Program. So we'd be happy to look over that management plan for you and determine whether or not it qualifies for the FFCP program. So main things we'd be looking at in there would be the required level of harvesting that's recommended within the plan. And then we can be able to guide you of whether or not the plan would meet our program requirements. And then from there, be able to kind of give you guidance on if there maybe needs to be an amendment made to it for participation.
Thanks, Ethan. The next question I see is, if the land is sold, are there any legal problems involved if the buyer does not want to participate? Yeah, so kind of like I touched on a little bit earlier, if the new buyer does not want to participate, then there is a penalty associated with the contract. Essentially, you would have to pay all monies that you've been paid so far. You also have to pay interest on that. And so there is a fee for each specific contract. Okay, the next question is, how does FFCP view the future sustainability of forest carbon credits? How long has this program been active? Ronnie, I'm going to go ahead and toss that one your way.
Ooh, tough one. Okay, so I think just being candid, we are very confident in the future, and I think one thing that we touched on before is these payments are meant to kind of align with what the market is and kind of accommodate for any fluctuations in the market. So, with our program, it is a 20-year program, so you are kind of protected within that time period. And we have been active, if I'm not mistaken, is it 3 years?
It's 5 years. Close, Ronnie. I'll
Five
take that
years.
one. Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm always like, don't know what year it is. It's 2025. But yes, as far as the carbon credits, we are really, confident in that. And again, the payments will kind of accommodate for what the fluctuations in the markets that we project to happen.
Awesome. Thanks, Ronnie. Yeah, I just sent out, this is an anecdote over here. I just sent out our attestation form request to our landowners who enrolled in 2020. That's why I could say it was 5 years, because every 5 years, landowners who enrolled have to fill out an attestation just to tell us what's changed on their land in the last 5 years. And it could be nothing or it could be something, but we like to know. All right, the next question I see is, I have a parcel enrolled in a gold wing warbler. Area was clear cut but is regenerating with hardwood. Is the land eligible? I'm going to pass that one to you, Ethan.
Yeah, so as far as goldwing warbler habitat program, we can be compatible with that. What flags me there is the clear cut, so that's something that we would have to assess based on how long ago that clear cut happened. And then we'd have to then probably send out a forester to take a peek at it if it was a while back, see if it still meets our eligibility criteria. And yeah, but usually we work pretty well with those. So it may not be qualifying right off the bat, but maybe at the end of the 25 or 20-year period, it would have grown up enough to be eligible.
Awesome. Thanks, Ethan. I think I can take this one, but Ethan, you might have to catch anything that I miss. It looks like it says, I apologize if this has been answered, juggling two webinars. I love that. But we already have a forest management plan good for about 10 more years. How does the FFCP interact with this existing plan? So as long as your existing plan meets our eligibility, it is good and we will count it for the next 10 years. We do require our landowners to have an active plan while in the program. So then you would get a stipend for the next 10 years essentially to get that plan updated. Did I get that right, Ethan?
I'm sorry, you have to repeat that. They're mowing the lawn right outside of my apartment right now.
Oh, no worries. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. This landowner already has a forest management plan. Looks like it expires in 10 years. And I was just saying that they'll need another management plan in 10 years, but we would give them a stipend in order to do that.
Correct, correct. And we would then look at the management plan you have right now, and if everything meets our program requirements, then you can then continue to use that plan. If there's a few things that need to be changed, such as harvesting intensity, then we can also work with amendments and help you cover the cost of those so that that plan would then meet our program requirements.
Beautiful answer. Next question is, can a county enroll? I haven't been asked that question before, but I'll pass that one to Ethan.
I also have not been asked that question before, so I'm not 100% sure on if counties can enroll. So we'd have to probably just look at the structure of ownership of the property, and we'll probably have to pass that one up the chain a little bit. But thanks for inquiring. That's a good thing for us to look into.
You stumped us, Pamela. All right, next question would there be a consequence for storm damage to mature trees? Is there a certain type of trees that are desired? So I can answer the first question. Within the contract, we do have a force majeure. So it is not your fault if a tree comes and damages, or a storm comes and damages your trees. We do have a plan for that. If it was enough and if it was pretty significant, we might have to partially terminate your contract. But once again, you would not have to pay penalties for that. The next question is more for Ethan. Is there a certain type of trees that we desire?
Yeah, so within the program, we will take any forest type that isn't aspen birch dominant. So that means that anything 50% of the stand or more, if it's made up of aspen birch, it's not eligible for the program. But otherwise, we would take any other major forest type.
Nice. How many FFCP personnel are directly involved in the Midwest region? That's such a good question, and we are all from different teams, so I might let all of us answer. I know from my team, when it comes to post-enrollment support, we've got two people from the Midwest region. I'll pass it to you, Ronald.
As far as on our end, am I okay? I was frozen for a second. As far as account management, I am the sole account manager. So if you do decide to, enroll in the program, or at least, find out more about us, at some point you will speak with me. I will help you through the enrollment process. As Jasmine mentioned, there are some other folks that may help with sort of your early stages. If you have a forest management plan, you will likely speak with me. There are a few foresters that we work with on staff, primarily. So, there's some people who take a good bulk of the people who are enrolling. So, um, I think that puts us at about, as far as people you may speak to on the front end, possibly four individuals, but you'll likely only speak with 2 to 3 people. We don't want to have you, pass you around to a bunch of people and lack consistency. But as I mentioned, as go through the enrollment process, I will be your point of contact. So, and I love speaking with you all. So I would love for everyone here to join, because I love to have the conversations. I love to learn more about, people's land, and, I learn a lot in the process. So.
Yep. And then there was a clarifying question here. It looks like, yes, I can clarify that we have about 1,200 landowners enrolled. Is that what it was, Ronnie?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then I'm going to pass this one to you also. Is there a minimum for for acreage?
There is. So our minimum is 30 acres. So that is forested acres that are eligible. So you may have 80 acres, but as long as 30 of those acres are eligible forest, you are eligible for our program.
Awesome. Thank you. Ooh, I have a fun question. How many visits or meetings do you have with landowners each year? How often do you visit the land? Do you visit on your own anytime or only with other landowners? I think that's what that says.
Is that a question for me?
Actually,
I think
yeah,
it's for every.
that might be for everyone. Let me start with Ethan though, Ronnie.
Yeah, so how many visits or meetings do you have with the landowner each year? So you'll have your initial calls with us over the phone. As far as on the property, it kind of depends on the needs. So if you've had recent harvests prior to within the last 5 years, somebody may come out to visit the property just to confirm that what we're seeing on our satellite imagery is correct. Other than that, we do our records verification, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's every 5 years we do that. So then that one's set up as, you're kind of tossed into a hat for your cohort. If your name's drawn, then we would come out and just confirm that, what we're seeing online is matching to what is actually on the ground. And those kinds of visits, when we come out, we sure to do our best to make sure that you're informed. If you're able to join us, awesome. If you're not, then, bummer. We always love to have landowners out there with us, but we to make sure to have your permission, that we're on the property, and it's a pretty quick visit. So, you can expect one visit initially, and then you'll also get a visit when it comes to the writing of a forest management plan from the forester that's helping you with that. They'll come out, they'll walk the property, they'll make sure to have some time talking with you to make sure that management plan not only meets our program requirements, but also meets the goals that you have for your woodland.
Awesome, thank you. And I'll say in terms of post enrollment, we're always looking for landowners who maybe want to host field days or landowner visits. If you invite one of us, one of my teammates to your property, we'd love to come check it out. So that's a little bit more flexible than like the on the ground support that Ethan's talking about. Oh, Ethan, did you cover monitoring and I just missed it?
Yeah, we do the monitoring pretty much actively every year, all year, but that one's done more with satellite imagery. The every 5 years is where we just come out more the boots on the ground confirmation of what we're seeing.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Okay, another question. Is there a program for people who have fewer than 30 acres? Ronnie, I'll pass that one to you.
So in the Midwest, we don't have a dedicated program to that for that currently. I can say that is something we are considering. And sometimes there are people who have, slightly less than 30 acres that we can make exceptions for. So that'll just be case by case. We've had people in the, 25 acres, we want people in the program. So I think don't let that discourage you.
Awesome, thank you. If the forest management plan requires remediation, such as clearing dead, damaged, and diseased, can the landowner get financial and or expert assistance? I'll pass that to you, Ethan.
Yeah, so as far as the plan, we would go ahead and review that for you, making sure that it meets our program requirements. If not, then we'll discuss whether or not there'd be a means to amend it. But usually things like that can be compatible with our program. As far as the financial assistance, if you're seeking out a third-party forest management plan that would provide you with a cost share, the cost share would be the location where you get the financial help to do that. Our stipend would be the other form of financial help to then enter that program. And then, those third-party programs are where you get that expert assistance insofar as how to perform those clearings or disease tree removal, or they provide you with resources and where you can seek out assistance with getting that done so that you have the knowledge and the safety to, accomplish that task.
Thanks, Ethan. I'm just going to rapid fire you for the next few of these. Do parcels need to be connected?
So not necessarily, but we do have a distance limit that parcels can be separated. So it's got to be within 10 minutes of driving between the two. And then there's going to be, size requirements. So if you do have separate parcels, then we would say need one parcel that meets our 30-acre minimum. And then the parcel that's separated away needs to have at least 5 acres of eligible woodland on it for us to then be able to enroll that. So for example, if you have two 15-acre parcels that are separate, unfortunately, those wouldn't work for our program, even if they do total 15, just because we do not have the total 30 on one individual parcel. But
Thank you.
case by case basis, we're always happy to look at both.
Nice. I'm not sure if this question is in regard to you personally or our staff in general, but I'm going to ask it as written. Is the forester an independent party or state employee?
Yeah. So our staff foresters are on the staff for us. So most of the ones that you'll work with here in the Midwest are not state-based consulting foresters. So that means we don't necessarily have the certification within the state to write, say, a third-party USDA or NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Service plan. However, our consulting foresters are state certified consulting foresters, so they do have the certifications and licensure to write those plans. Say if you're seeking out managed forest law in Wisconsin, we can put you in connection with consulting foresters that are state certified to write those plans. So we're a little bit different between our staff foresters and our consulting foresters, but we do usually have someone on staff that can meet the requirements if you're looking for something specific.
Awesome. I'm going to give you a brief break. And this one will be for you, Ronald. We are a family of 5 each with a separate deed for 40 acres all in one location. Can we group apply?
Yes, you can. Yeah, there's ways we will get that together. We do have what we would call multi-owner contracts that we can get together. So yeah, definitely if you have a group of people who want to be part of the program, we welcome you.
Awesome. Thank you. Back to you, Ethan. Does this only apply to existing forested land, or can fields be converted to planted forested land under this program?
Yeah, good question, Robert. So we do not have an afforestation or reforestation program currently in the Midwest. But something that could potentially be in the future. We don't have any plans for it at the moment, but we do have a program in the South that does do afforestation. So you never know what the future holds, but currently at the moment, no, we do not have anything for converting fields back. So this would only apply to existing forested land.
These are great questions, you guys. Please keep them coming. Our next question is prescribed burning allowable within your management plans?
Yeah, so this one is, going to be very, very situation dependent. So we'll have to look at the parameters of those prescribed burns, how they are prescribed, meaning, what is the method that they're looking at doing, the range that they're looking at doing that, and, as well as location. So if a prescribed burn, for example, is not in an eligible portion of your woodland, then they're totally allowable within your current management plan. So very, very much situation dependent, but again, always happy to look at those management plans and be able to provide you guidance on, the parameters and how it works into the Family Forest Carbon Program.
Awesome. Thank you, Ethan. Now I will take a brief pause. That looks like the last question that was in the Q&A box, but we have some time. So I encourage you all, if there are more questions that are coming up, maybe we answered a question and that made you think of another question, feel free to add that to the Q&A box.
I did see that there was a question in the chat from.
Oh, I missed that one. Okay.
It stated, if I have an existing management plan, will I need another if the current one meets your rubric? No, Charlie, Charles, good question. That's usually pretty straightforward. So if you do have an existing management plan, you usually do not need another. Usually what happens with those situations is we would just determine whether or not an amendment is needed if, say, harvest is prescribed within it that doesn't quite meet our program requirements. And again, we can provide assistance with that amendment in the form of a stipend. So we're always, again, happy to look those over and let you know. But usually if you come in with a management plan and, you're looking to enroll, we can really look that over and let you know, A, is it compatible? B, do we need to maybe do a little amendment on it to make sure that it continues to meet our program requirements?
Awesome. Another question. I am a board member in a conservation district. What about, oh, we are about to acquire a gift of force. Can a CD apply? It's a great question. Ronald, I'll send that back to you.
Um, I would think so. We do accept different ownership types. So I don't want to say no. I actually haven't been asked this, but and Ethan, maybe you can help out with this too, but I think I don't think there would be a restriction on that.
Yeah, I too have not been asked that, and we have actually not had, to my knowledge, a conservation district come through.
Yeah.
So my guess would likely be that, again, go online. You can look and determine the eligibility of your property. And then it would likely come down to ownership structure as well as what are the conservation parameters put on the land from the conservation district. So that kind of goes back to like, is there restrictions on harvesting? Is there any legal language that has relation to harvesting that we would have to review for eligibility? So I'd always encourage, folks to apply. We always are happy, reach out and have a conversation. Great if you do. If you don't, we're also, down to have a conversation of like, well, we can't maybe work with you, but here's some other resources you can seek out that may meet your goals.
Sweet. Thank you both. And like I said, we still have some time, so not rushing anybody. If you guys want to add any additional questions and answers to that chat box, we would love to think through them. You all have stumped us a couple of times, but we won't be defeated. Continue to drop those questions in, and we will give them our best shot. And like Ethan and both Ronald said, please feel free to reach out to us via thefamilyforestcarbon.org for more questions that we may not have been able to answer today or to get started. I'll give us one more minute to see if any more questions come through. Awesome. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the webinar today. I hope you were able to get out and get some sun and enjoy your land or just the outdoors in general. And if, like we said, if you have any questions or are ready to get started, please visit us at our website or give us a call. Thank you for joining us today. Bye, y'all.